Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, everybody. I feel like I'm interrupting some good times. I think there's some people glad to be gathering together, I sense. Yes, cheers to that. Welcome, everyone. It is so great. I know you all feel it. It is great to be here. Thank you for joining us at the 41st YWCA Toronto Women of Distinction Awards. Let's be honest. Yes. Let's be honest, wasn't it so great to have someone to get dressed up for? Hands up if you had a little thrill trying to find heels, locating the Spanx. You know, these are big moments. We haven't done this in a while. And I can say things like that in a room like this. I have 3 sons. Nobody gets those jokes in my house. So, my name is Jill Deacon. It is my true honor to be your host for this amazing event this evening. We've covered this on CBC Toronto. I host Here and Now on CBC Radio 1. And we've talked about this event over many years. And it's just so great to be a part of it. So I would like to begin, as we must, by acknowledging the sacred land on which YWCA Toronto operates. This land is the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with Mississaugas of the Credit, and we are grateful to work on treaty land in community with each other as we strive to build a more equitable and just city for women, girls, and gender diverse people. So thank you all for being here. It wasn't dark enough probably for you to see this on your way here, but I'll tell you something to look up for as you're heading out tonight, which is that the CN Tower is lighting up tonight in purple, magenta, and orange in honor of the 41st YWCA Toronto Women of Distinction Awards Gala. At various times throughout the night, YWCA Toronto is pleased to share tonight's lighting with other important causes. But if you look up later, you'll certainly see it, those colors, for some part of tonight. We do have a jam-packed show for you tonight, so I'm not going to take any more of your time. I'm going to get it rolling. Please join me in welcoming Heather McGregor, who is Chief Executive Officer of YWCA Toronto.
Thank you so much, Jill, and good evening, everyone. It has been a very long 27 months, and as Jill said, it's so great to celebrate with you in person tonight. And I have my own stories about what I would wear tonight, and I've been wearing a pretty nice top, but maybe pajama bottoms and certainly slippers, and so I thought, I know I must have some shoes to go with this dress, but where are they? Anyway, I found them. So on behalf of the 2022 Women of Distinction Selection Committee and the Planning Committee, YWCA Toronto and the more than 13,000 women, girls, and people that YWCA Toronto serves annually, thank you so much for joining us this evening. This room is huge. And again, it's so wonderful to see people and not just their heads, you know? In addition to being a celebration of amazing women, this is YWCA Toronto's largest fundraiser of the year, where we hope to raise over $600,000 to help women, girls, and gender diverse people transform their lives. We are so grateful to all of our wonderful sponsors and donors, many of whom who support YWCA Toronto year after year. We would not be here without you. Thank you also to the dedicated event volunteers, including the members of the selection and planning committees. As always, I am inspired by your devotion and relentless determination. It would have been impossible to put on this event without your hard work and support. So to all of you in this room tonight, your generosity enables YWCA Toronto to help women flee violence, secure housing, find jobs, enhance their skills, develop confidence, and transform their lives. You also allow us to engage in systemic, nonpartisan advocacy to influence policy and legislative change and push forward change in gender equity, poverty reduction, and social justice. So speaking of advocacy, I just have to tell you about an event that I went to last Monday, and I attended the announcement in Ottawa of the proposed legislation on gun control. So we have been members of the Gun Control Coalition for 33 years. So advocacy is a long, hard road, and we're certainly coming towards it on the gun control issue. Banning the sale of handguns is a real advocacy victory. So I hope that you all understand that. So on the direct service side of what we do at the YWCA, I just want to tell you about two things, and very quickly. The first is that despite these last 2.5 years, we have added to our permanent and supportive housing portfolio another 273 housing units. And that brings a total of 823 units across the city, 1, 2, 3, and 4-bedroom apartments. And I would be remiss if I didn't say as well that we have 14 different diverse employment programs across our city. So I could go on, but I'd probably be pulled off the stage. So tonight we honor 8 remarkable women who are passionate and resolved in their work to advance gender equity. The women of distinction are trailblazers, feminist role models, and champions of women, girls, and gender-diverse people. They challenge systemic discrimination, advocate for marginalized women and children, and create opportunities for women and girls and gender-diverse people to achieve greatness. These inspiring women, through their unwavering commitment to helping others, are implementing real positive change in their own communities and beyond. Congratulations to them all. Our first award this evening honors a leader in advocacy and women's rights. Deepa Mattoo is a skilled, I think Deepa has some friends here. Deepa is a skilled feminist lawyer and the executive director of the Barbara Schleifer Commemorative Clinic. She is a passionate advocate for survivors of violence. Throughout her remarkable career, Deepa has supported women and their families and provided training and educational opportunities to direct service providers, legal and justice system players, and others across Canada. She specializes in working with forced marriage survivors, non-status and immigrant women, and refugee women experiencing gender-based violence. Deepa inspires future feminist lawyers through her role as an adjunct professor at Osgoode Hall Law School and is a 2022 Law Society Awards Medal recipient. Through her visionary leadership, commitment to collaboration, and development of innovative service models, Deepa is an inspiring force for change in the legal sphere and beyond.
I grew up around a lot of understanding that women were considered not equal in this world. That kind of sensibility dawned on me very early on in my life. My first experience was to work with widows who were left on the street by their families just because their husband was dead. It was gut-wrenching for a young person. I was barely like 21 years old when I started working for them. It was gut-wrenching, but at the same time, I think it gave me the fierceness and the fire that I needed to fight a lot of different forms of discriminations and violence. That's how I landed up where I am. Probably all those experiences formed me, and I was getting ready to do the work I'm doing. Young women I have worked for and represented in the situation of forced marriages, who get stuck abroad sometimes, and then I've worked with them to get repatriation and come back to Canada. There are lots of people who have left an impact in my life. They've taught me and they have changed me forever. But the resiliency of the young women I have worked with who find themselves in the middle of the most difficult crisis, and they still have the resiliency and still fight, right? That has helped me have the capacity to keep on doing what I do. I truly believe that the gender-based violence as it exists in our society, I truly believe that we can have a tomorrow where it won't be there. It is not something that's only possible, it can happen.
Please join me in congratulating Deepa Mattoo on her 2022 YWCA Women of Distinction Award for Advocacy and Women's Rights.
Thank you, everyone. I have to first say it's so nice to be in a room full of people and see the smiling faces. I just want to soak it in. Thank you, YWCA Toronto, for this award. It is an honor and truly humbling to be amongst this esteemed group of people who received this award, the past recipients and this year's recipients. As I reflect on my journey, I did not set out to be in a leadership position, and I did not set out to be recognized. I did set out to be part of a global movement of change. As a young girl growing up in small towns in India, I saw a lot of injustice and sexism. My immigration journey to UK and Canada exposed me to the impact of struggles of immigration status, racism, and discrimination as a racialized person, as a foreign-trained professional. My choice of working in the social justice and gender-based violence sector made me understand systemic struggle of underfunded, undervalued, and precarious workforce, and it requires constant perseverance. In the world drowning in war, disease, and economic crisis, it's love and compassion that propels movement of social justice and gender equality. I'm grateful to be in the company of past and present colleagues and my board of directors. Friends tonight whose support on this collective journey has made it possible for me to focus, to deepen my capacities, grieve, and celebrate. I'm also grateful to my family with me tonight, my partner Harjot and my daughter Ashwira, my champions, my grounding force. In spite of missed field trips, missed dinners, and family gatherings, they have been there for me always. I share with you something that I wrote for myself almost a decade back, and it's still true for me. An immigrant woman, like a tree that is old with its roots growing on it, while it's still rooted in the earth. I stay rooted and grow a little bit while pruning myself every day. Thank you.
And now, please welcome Sarah Draper, Vice President, YWCA Toronto Board of Directors and Chair of the Women of Distinction Planning Committee.
Congratulations, Deepa, and thank you, Jill. Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. As the province's largest multi-service women's organization, YWCA Toronto has 34 programs across 14 locations in Toronto to promote women's health, equity, economic security, and lives free from violence. It also ensures women's diverse voices are amplified through nonpartisan advocacy at all levels of government. Our next woman of distinction is a prominent advocate for refugee rights. After fleeing political oppression in El Salvador, Loli Rico and her late husband founded what is now known as the FCJ Refugee Center. She also has some friends here tonight. Loli's personal migration experience exposed her to the vulnerabilities many refugee women and children face and the urgent need for community programs to support healing and safety. Over the years, they expanded the center's services significantly, offering refugee women and families legal support, primary health care clinic, and social assistance aid. Loli has been recognized and awarded by a number of institutions in the city, such as the Canadian Centre for Victims of Torture Trevor Bartram Award, the Community Leadership Award from the Salvadorian Canadian Association of Toronto, and the Spirit of Barbara Schleifer Award. Please join me.
In 1990, I came from El Salvador as a refugee with my husband and my children. I was 5 months pregnant. My husband was threatened because he was a human rights lawyer, and I was working for the justice of children with disability and working with women. At the end of 90s, beginning of 2000, there was a big movement of people from Angola. At that time in Angola, there was a civil war where they were taking young girls to use either for the benefit of the army or the benefit of the guerrilla. There was a particular 3 young girls that they came. The oldest one was 17, the second one 15, and the little one was 7 years old. We welcomed them to our own house, and we helped them to go through the refugee process, to go through the whole immigration process, and to give them family. What I said that is a success story because they stay in Canada. That's something that gives me especially to continue doing, to open the door, because if the 3 of them, they will come to Canada as an accompanied minor, they will be in the children's services system, but sometimes they will be separated at that time because the oldest one was already over the age to be in the children's services system. My dream is that to close down the office because the society is so equal that we don't need to run away. It's just if we want to move to around the world to develop ourselves, to be open doors. That's my dream.
It is my absolute honor to present Loli Rico, her Women of Distinction Award for Refugee Rights.
Good evening. It's an honor. I'm very humbled to be here. I never thought that 32 years later on, I will be standing here talking to all of you. This is a big room, and even though I've been fighting and having struggles and discussing with the government, I'm nervous here. I wanna say thank you to the organizers. I know and I'm very proud what is the YWCA, because many of the women that come into our office, they have been living in their houses. And also we have been working together to also to help women who have been victims of domestic violence. But also I want to give a big thank you to the nominator, who is a beautiful colleague, but also to someone who has been giving me all this strength, the love of my life, my husband, who already is gone. And he and I, and my 2 kids, and I was pregnant of the third one, we came to this adventure to look where we can have a better life, but also to not just to stay and stabilize here, also to keep the door open, that we can keep welcoming more refugees, and especially women and children. 32 years ago, there were not that many doors for them. And that's why we start with the help of the Faithful Companions of Jesus, who are a religious organization who provide us with their properties and the support that we can start what is now the FCJ Refugee Center. That it is a center where we welcome, it's a house. All of you can come and see, have a lunch with us, but it's a house where we accommodate women and children, but also we help people who doesn't have a status, and they are struggling here in Canada to have a better life. Also, I want to say a big thank you because I want to pass the torch. It's to my daughter, Ana Teresa, to my granddaughters, Cassandra Elena and Zoe, because if you see, I have gray hair, and we need to move forward. We need to give the space for young people like Deepa. She has a long way to go. But we need to continue doing this struggling and to keep the door open for women from everywhere, not from the refugees that the government choose, refugees from everywhere. Thank you.
Now, please welcome Leah Boyd, Partner and General Counsel, Whitehorse Liquidity Partners.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Leah Boyd, and I am a partner and the General Counsel at Whitehorse Liquidity Partners. On behalf of the whole team at Whitehorse, many of whom are here this evening, we're extremely honored to be sponsoring this year's Women of Distinction Awards, and we congratulate all of the women who are celebrated here this evening. Thank you for making a difference in the lives of women, girls, and gender diverse individuals. You're truly an inspiration to all of us, and we appreciate everything that you're doing to create meaningful change. At Whitehorse, we have a saying. We like to say, it's not just what you do, but how you do it that matters. And that's why having an impact in our communities and engaging in important issues, including gender equity, is something we're passionate about. We have been proud supporters of the YWCA Toronto for a number of years. At Whitehorse, we're focused on attracting, developing, and retaining women at all levels within the firm. We truly believe that diversity means better decision-making and better outcomes. That is why we feel especially honored tonight to be presenting the award for corporate leadership to Willa Black. To those who know her, Willa really needs no introduction, as the applause will confirm, but I'll give it a shot. Willa Black is a committed feminist and a leader who activates change in communities and advocates for women in STEM. As Vice President of Corporate Affairs at Cisco Canada, Willa has helped thousands of students in northern communities gain access to the internet and other digital supports. Over her extensive career, Willa has advocated for women and girls, building programs to ensure equity of opportunity through digital access to education, mental health resources, and IT skills training. Willa was awarded the Meritorious Service Medal by the Governor General for outstanding service to Canada and received the Women in Communications and Technology Leadership Excellence Innovator Award. Through Willa's leadership, she has demonstrated a deep and long-standing commitment to unlocking the potential in women, girls, and Indigenous students through technology.
The very first time I went up to the north, I was really appalled at the lack of resources that were available to those teachers and those students in those schools. In many ways, I was ashamed to be a Canadian. The program that I was launching was really focused on how do we support students locally, girls and women locally, to help them really achieve their potential. Establishing technology in the schools to connect students to opportunities not available to them locally. Things like mental wellness supports and services, mentoring, skills training, teacher professional development, virtual field trips, music, dance, language revitalization. All of these things we could do over video, which is something through the pandemic we now really understand, but at the time it was pretty new. So I was in the school a lot at that period, and I remember a little girl came out to me one day. She couldn't have been more than 10 years old, and she looked at me and she said, "Who are you? And what are you doing here?" And I looked at her and I explained what I was doing here, and she looked back at me, I'll never forget it, and she said, "Well, that's good, but let me just tell you, if you're going to do something, you say you're going to do something, you better do it, because a lot of people come here and they tell us stuff and they promise things and then we never see them again." My hope is that one day we will find ourselves in a Canada where there is true equity of opportunity for all, where there is true respect for all, and where we're able to leverage the enormous untapped talent and potential in this country.
Please join me in congratulating Willa Black for her award in the category of corporate leadership.
This is all very overwhelming, but I shall press on. And it's so wonderful to look out of this ocean of people. It's just absolutely fantastic. I want to thank the YWCA Toronto for this wonderful honor and for shining a light on the work that is so important to me. It also means so much to be included in the company of the other honorees, each of whom leads with purpose and inspires us with their deep commitment to justice for women and girls. We live in a country and have much to be proud of and grateful for, and yet we face profound challenges ensuring equity of opportunity for all. I'll never forget my first visit to a remote Indigenous school. The lack of resources, the harsh living conditions, and the effects of intergenerational trauma resulting from years of mistreatment by our own government made me understand how we needed to right wrongs. What struck me most was the resilience I saw, the kindness I was shown, the beauty and the power of the culture, and the fortitude of the mothers in the community who, just like me, just wanted the best for their children. I felt a responsibility to engage in meaningful reconciliation. It was clear there was a role the private sector could play, a path we could share with Indigenous leaders to unleash the potential in their youth. And so, in 2013, Cisco Canada launched Connected North, using technology to connect students to opportunities not available to them where they lived: mentorship, skills training, mental wellness, education supports. And today, under the committed leadership of Jennifer Corriero and Michael Furtick, who are here tonight, of taking it global, and in partnership with communities from the Yukon to Nunavut, the network now reaches 130 schools, 25,000 students, and 900 teachers. That is something to applaud about. Only 400 more schools to go, just saying. But this network ensures the children in the North have access to the resources that they need and that they deserve. So this is an example of private sector a leader coming to the table with respect and a commitment to working for as long as it takes to deliver innovation where it is needed and welcomed. At Cisco, it might be connecting the North, or programming to address the lack of women and girls in tech, or helping Canada's not-for-profit sector build their digital capacity. I am so proud of our work and proud to work for an organization that leads with purpose with a core belief in fairness and inclusion. It is who we are. We face profound challenges in Canada and around the world, and governments alone cannot solve them. We must tap into the innovation, expertise, and executional capacity of the private sector, because it's going to take all of us, businesses, organizations, governments, communities, you and me, building ecosystems for change. We can come together in our shared belief that Canada can be better. We can all be part of solutions that are both principled and lasting. Our strength in this country is our diversity. We must ensure that nobody gets left behind, regardless of where they live. With digitization, we unlock great human potential, and in doing that, we realize the promise that is Canada. Thank you.
Congratulations, Willa, and thanks, Leah. You know, all the women being honored tonight, as well as the women of distinction who've been acknowledged over the last 40 years, have all made a profound difference in the lives of women and girls, even just from the first few that we've heard from tonight. I know I feel deeply inspired and also feel like maybe I haven't been doing enough with my life. I think there's a lot of inspiration happening in this room right now. And you know, as was mentioned earlier, these women get nominated. And if you know inspiring women who move you and that you think deserve recognition, many of whom could well be in this room, please consider nominating a woman who has inspired you for a 2023 Woman of Distinction Award. You'll find more information about how to do that in the program book for this evening, and of course also on YWCA Toronto's website. Alrighty, now to present our next award, please welcome Sarah Ahmad, who is Senior Vice President, Health and Wellness, Shoppers Drug Mart.
Rethinking these heels as I walked up those stairs just now. So, hello everyone, good evening. Shoppers Drug Mart is deeply committed to women's health. So it is extremely exciting for us to celebrate women who have achieved incredible efforts in advancing the health and well-being of women. Our signature program, Love You by Shoppers Drug Mart, works both nationally and locally to support, on average, 450 partners each year, including the YWCA Toronto, an organization that shares our commitment to ensuring more women have access to the care and support they need to be healthy and safe. We have supported YWCA Toronto for over 25 years. So on behalf of Shoppers Drug Mart, it is my honor to present the Woman of Distinction Award in the category of healthcare to a woman who is a trailblazer and an advocate for women's health. Dr. Sharon Walmsley is one of the first Ontario physicians to dedicate her career to the care of persons living with HIV. She learned that the HIV-infected woman has special needs beyond their medical treatment related to stigma, disclosure, isolation, and poverty. She also recognized many women and trans persons acquire HIV through sexual assault or trauma. As Professor of Medicine, University of Toronto, Director of one of the largest Canadian HIV clinics at the University Health Network, and Senior Scientist at the Toronto General Hospital Research Institute, Dr. Sharon Walmsley continues to break new ground. She has received numerous awards for her work, including the Order of Canada in 2017, and was appointed Fellow of the Canadian Academy of Health Sciences in 2021.
My very first night on the job, I was in the emergency room, and there was a young gay man who came in short of breath. And at the time, I went to the emergency room physician, you know, what do we do with this man? And she says, oh, he's just anxious, give him a paper bag to breathe in, which I did, and clearly that didn't help. And so I went into doctor mode and did an x-ray, and this man had a terrible pneumonia. And boy, you know, it was out of keeping for a young man to have such bad pneumonia. So we called down the specialist in lung disease, and he says, "Oh, I bet you this guy has AIDS." And I was in horror. I said, "What is AIDS?" And I just finished medical school. I'd never heard of this disease. And I went home in tears that night. You know, my very first night on the job as a doctor, and I saw a patient with a disease I'd never even heard of, and changed my life. And from that day forward, I have devoted my career to research, education, and care of people living with HIV. And then along the way, clearly, I shifted my interest a little bit to dealing with women living with HIV. And you look at HIV through the world, half the people living with HIV are women. And people look at it, that's a gay man's disease. And it's not just the treatment part, but it's the psychosocial part. And you know, many men living with HIV have a community of men that they know. They know about HIV, but for women it's different. And many women living with HIV don't know anybody else with HIV. Well, I think anybody dealing with HIV would love a cure and love a vaccine. And I think if we can learn anything from the COVID pandemic is if you put money behind something, it can happen.
It is my honor to present the 2022 Women of Distinction Award to Dr. Sharon Walmsley.
So thank you, Sarah, for your kind words, and thank you for the committee for considering me for this award, and for Dr. Cheryl Wagner, who's with us for her nomination. You know, we are privileged to live in a country with universal health care, but there are still disparities in the access and the delivery of that care. And I became aware of that very early in the HIV pandemic. And boy, has it been magnified in the COVID pandemic. Women have fewer financial resources. They have less access to food, to housing, to transportation. The women I care for often just don't disclose their status. They're worried about trauma to themselves, to their children. And they don't have the power to make their own health decisions, and often are too busy caring for spouses or children to think about their own health. So I made it my mandate very early in my career that I'm going to help these women living with HIV, and I'm going to change the lens of research so that these women can have their unique medical and psychosocial issues dealt with. And we also identified very early on that women living with HIV needed to be part of the team so that we asked the right questions in research to answer the questions needed for their health care. But efforts to improve the situation cannot be done in isolation. And I have been blessed with an incredible team that have supported me through the years. And a couple of them are here tonight. Chantel Sheehan, my administrative assistant, and Rosie Clark, my research manager. I call them my right hand and my left hand. They keep me grounded and they help me do my work. But equally important to me and of great pride to me is mentoring the next generation to take the torch and to continue this work. And again, many of my former students and residents are here today. Dr. Mona Lufti has a national cohort of HIV living with women, and she's looking at different approaches to healthcare. She dedicates a lot of her time to go to North Saskatchewan and help women, Aboriginal women living with HIV, take care of their health. I have Lena Sergidis. She's a basic scientist, and she's spending a lot of time looking at what drugs are safe for women if they become pregnant. I have Alice Zabariski with me. She's looking at older women with HIV. Yes, women are aging with HIV, and she's looking at the factors that will enable women to live well. So we need to pass the torch, and it's real privilege for me to be able to supervise and watch these women as they grow, and mentorship is extremely important. I'm blessed to have my family, my friends, my colleagues with me tonight. And over my career, HIV has transformed from a life-threatening infection to a chronic disease. And perhaps one of the greatest advantages of science was showing that HIV treatment could allow HIV-infected women to have children that do not have the virus, and that was truly an advance. My residents and students that I shared your stories, they've all had children on their own. So young women in the audience, yes, you can be a doctor, a scientist, and a mother, and do all of those things excellent. So we need to continue to strive to ensure that women have the best access to health care and treatment, and research takes care of their needs. And I hope in my lifetime that we can live in a world that's free of HIV. Thank you, everyone.
All righty, congratulations, Dr. Sharon Walmsley, and thank you to Sarah. In the 40-year history of these awards, over 300 women have been bestowed the honor of becoming a YWCA Toronto Woman of Distinction. The Women of Distinction alumni are called the Circle of Distinction, and the Circle is really a call to collective action. Its exceptional members motivate, inspire, and lead to amplify women's voices and mobilize for the advancement of women and girls in Toronto and right around the world. Since the inception of the Distinction Fund in 2017, its amazing members have donated over $1 million to support YWCA Toronto's transformative programs and services to help women, girls, and gender-diverse people thrive in our city. The Circle of Distinction now includes tonight's award recipients, and together they have the power to change the world for women and girls. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next presenter, who is a 2014 Woman of Distinction. Entrepreneur Sherry Brideson's spirited feminism has inspired a lifelong commitment to empowering women. She's been a proud supporter of the YWCA since 1998. Sherry is a visionary, she's an entrepreneur, and she's a proud founder and principal of Elmwood Spa and Bangkok Garden, who've been champion sponsors of the Women of Distinction Award for many years. She, as well as her family, made an exceptionally generous contribution that helped YWCA Toronto build Irma Brideson Place, which is an affordable, supportive apartment in the Elm Complex that houses 300 women, gender-diverse people, and their dependents. Please welcome.
Thank you, Jill. Tonight, we recognize 8 inspiring women who have worked with dedication to push for change within our community. And I'm really honored to be asked to present one of them to you. Elmwood Spa and Bangkok Garden, I don't know how many of you are aware, occupied the original YWCA building at 18 Elm Street, built in 1892. And we knew this very early on when we moved into the building and started to renovate it into a spa and a Thai restaurant. So when Heather McGregor came to visit us at Bangkok Garden one day and asked us if we would become involved in the YWCA, we leaped at the opportunity. We've always felt the spirit of the YWCA, excuse me, in our own way. Originally, the Elmwood Spa was developed as a club for women who were attempting to break through the glass ceiling. And over the years, it has morphed, along with Toronto, into a refuge not just for women, but a peaceful place where we can welcome all genders with equal hospitality. And certainly, if you could see the photographs of the early employees of the Elmwood, you would see how much Toronto has diversified in the last 40 years. At the Elmwood and at Bangkok Garden, we share a commitment to supporting the communities in which we live and work. We were thrilled when the YWCA was given the property at 47 Elm Street, and they moved back into our neighborhood. So the memory of Mary Pickford is still with us as well from that street, and I'm just happy we're all together again. Our teams have worked to support the YWCA Toronto's violence against women's shelters throughout the pandemic, while also continuously building awareness for the cause. We have always been quick to lend our support wherever possible. As a champion supporter of the Women of Distinction Award since 2014, we are honored to present the next award to a woman who has dedicated herself to building a stronger global community for all. And I put on Ukrainian colors tonight to recognize what's going on over there, but let's not forget our sisters in Afghanistan. It's a shame when there are so many difficult areas of the world that we have to focus our attention on one of them. But here's a woman who is laser focused on the issues in Afghanistan. Asma Faizi is a pillar for Afghan women and girls in Canada and abroad. As president and chair of the board of directors for the Afghan Women's Organization, she has played an instrumental part in creating opportunities for Afghan women. Asma has received the Member of Parliament's Sesquicentennial Citizenship Award in 2017 and was among the Atlas Women Afghan Emergency Task Force that received the 2021 PillNet Pro Bono Publico Award. And that's an award that recognizes extraordinary legal professionals and their dedication to service for the public good. But let's find out a little bit more about Asma.
So we left Afghanistan when I was 3 years old. We fled when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan. We lived in the refugee camps in Pakistan and India before we immigrated to Canada. So I know what it feels like to be a refugee and know the hardships that my parents went through in terms of leaving their family and their life behind to ensure that we have a better future. For those of us who are Afghan, the past 4 decades of what's going on inside Afghanistan, all the atrocities that Afghan women and girls have faced, I think that has definitely motivated me to ensure that there is a better world for not just Afghan women, but for all women and girls, so that they have access to education and their basic human rights. We had a woman that was dealing with an abusive situation. Her husband threw her out onto the street, literally onto the street with her young daughter. She didn't know how to speak the language. She found a payphone, called our organization, didn't even know where she was, and so we had to get her to ask people on the street to tell us where the intersection where she was at so that we could go and pick her up and her daughter. And through the work that we've done with this woman over the years, helping her find a place to live, helping her find a job, learning the language. She has gone through college, she has a diploma, is working in mental health and wants to give back to other people. We were there with her along the entire way, and I think that's making a difference in someone's life in that way, I think is what motivates us to do what we do.
It is my honor to present the 2022 Woman of Distinction Award to Asma Faizi in the category of Professions.
evening, everyone. I am deeply honored and humbled to be recognized among such amazing and inspirational women here tonight. To begin with, I want to thank the YWCA for this award and for all the great work that they do for women and girls in Toronto. I want to thank Adina Niazi for nominating me, and Mariam, Roani, and Corey for supporting my nomination. Adina John, thank you for founding the Afghan Women's Organization, for allowing me to be a part of it for the past 25 years, and for all the support you have given me. I also want to thank my husband and kids, my parents, brothers, family, and friends, many of whom are here with me tonight. Without your ongoing support and encouragement, I wouldn't be where I am today. This award does not go to me, but rather to the dedicated staff and board at the Afghan Women's Organization, who make sure that women, their families, refugees, and those who have experienced war and persecution can lead self-sufficient lives and contribute to society in a meaningful way. So thank you to all of my sisters at the Afghan Women's Organization for the incredible work that you do. I feel extremely privileged that my family immigrated to Canada. This has given me many opportunities. I had the opportunity to obtain an education. I have a great job, a roof over my head, access to healthcare, water, food, and I do not fear for my safety. These opportunities are not available to everyone, including women and girls in Afghanistan. Things that we take for granted are the very things that these women and girls are fighting for. Many of you are aware that the Taliban are restricting women's movement and their right to peaceful assembly, and severely curtailing their access to employment, healthcare, and higher education. Their voices are being silenced, as is their visibility in society. The dire situation is compounded by the unprecedented economic and humanitarian crisis Afghanistan is going through, which has left Afghan women unable to afford basic goods and services. The somber reality is that many are dying of hunger, while many others are living on streets without shelter, food, or water. So I'd like to end by emphasizing that each of you has the ability to give voice and amplify the voices of Afghan women so that they can realize their basic human rights and exercise their fundamental freedoms. Please join us in the struggle to make this happen, and thank you for your time.
All right, now if that didn't tug at your heartstrings, it's my duty to tug a little harder. So as a member of the Circle of Distinction, I am obligated, and it's a welcome obligation, to help the YWCA raise funds. So here's the pitch. At Elmwood Spa and Bangkok Garden, our support has never been stronger. We are committed to push for change in our community. This commitment is a natural fit with the YWCA and the Women of Distinction Awards. Tonight, as we celebrate these inspirational women, now is the time to ask yourselves, what can I bring to the table? What can I do here, now, today, to make my community safer and stronger for women, girls, and gender-diverse people? Well, you can tune in to the Create Change Challenge. The Create Change Challenge is a call to action and invitation to you to follow in the path of my fellow members of the Circle of Distinction and make a big difference in the lives of women and girls. As tonight's Create Change sponsor, when you make a donation to YWCA this evening, and you'll see you have all the necessary materials at your tables, including pens. When you make a donation to YWCA Toronto this evening, Elmwood Spa and Bangkok Garden will proudly match every donation, dollar for dollar, up to $40,000. YWCA Toronto is a lifeline for those who were most impacted by the pandemic. Help bring about a feminist recovery by being as generous as you can tonight. Together, we can and we will create change.
My name is Rebecca. I am a single mom to 3 girls. Today I have an awesome job as a painter and decorator, but it was not an easy road to get here.
The pandemic has exposed many inequities and disparities in our society, particularly for women and girls. But because of the pandemic, we saw a huge uptake in gender-based violence. Because women couldn't leave their homes during the pandemic, violence for vulnerable women actually escalated.
We met right out of high school, and I think we were dating for like 3 months before he proposed. After our first daughter was born, he changed. He became verbally abusive, and he would, tell me I was worthless. So when my second daughter was born, it got worse. He got violent and started breaking things. I actually tried to leave him many times, but I had like 0 support and a high school education. Then I got pregnant with our third daughter, and COVID hit. So now we were all home together, and that's when it got really, really bad. I searched online for advice on like how to leave him for good. I literally typed those words in. I immediately called a women's abuse helpline, and they told me, fortunately, that there was space at a YWCA women's shelter near us.
Our Violence Against Women shelters are a starting base for gender diverse communities, women and their children who have just left a violent scenario, and it's a chance for them to start rebuilding their life.
Everyone at the shelter was super supportive. I had a lot to deal with. I was on autopilot, but my main concern was my girls and how, I was going to help them get through this. I knew I had to find a job to support my girls.
We have advocated for programming specifically to women, and our employment programs, many of them are women-only programs.
Our YWCA Toronto Painter and Decorator pre-apprenticeship program actually has been serving participants for the last 5 years, and we've really done very successfully in this program, both for the participants who undertake this training as well as for employers who actually eventually hire some of our participants.
Through that placement, I was finally able to earn a living and save some money in order to find a place of our own. Unfortunately, rents in Toronto are really expensive, so I didn't know how I was going to be able to afford to find a place that was, big enough for the 4 of us.
Without access to adequate housing, safety for women is absolutely compromised. Access to safe, affordable housing is the first step for a woman who has survived gender-based violence to achieve stability in her life.
My worker found us a great 2-bedroom place at the Bergamot Apartments, and it just felt great to have our own place and to feel safe. Everybody there, they're all survivors like me, and it's amazing to feel that bond and support from other people. I had to find daycare for my baby, and it's expensive. And I was stressed about how I was going to be able to afford that on top of, like diapers, food, clothes.
There are a number of things that the pandemic has made clear to all of us now. And one of the things is the absolute need for affordable childcare.
We understand that in Toronto that the cost of childcare is extremely high, and we provide subsidized costs so that families can afford to have their child in childcare and in the hands of early childhood educators and assistants who care about their overall health and well-being.
The last piece of the puzzle was for me to find daycare for my baby, and bonus, there was daycare right in the building. My older girls are doing a lot better too. They're calmer and happier and have made new friends.
YWCA Toronto has always advocated for systemic issues for women and girls. And we continue to do that because only by raising the issues will there ever be change.
We have our good and bad days. Pain doesn't just go away, but I guess it takes time to heal. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I know that I wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for the support of YWCA Toronto.
So I hope that opened your hearts and will inspire you to open your wallets. And Nina's going to make another appeal to you. But before I go, I would like to suggest how we could all supercharge this event simply by telling your friends about it. Go home and tell a friend about it. We're going to put this video up on the YWCA website. I've learned from experience in talking to people about the YWCA that a lot of your friends and neighbors think the YWCA is a gym and possibly a daycare. And here's a way of telling them how different it really is and how worthy of their support. So go home tonight, tomorrow, in a day or two, and supercharge your donation by sending this message to a friend. Thank you.
And now, please welcome Nina Gorka, Director of Shelters and Clinical Services, YWCA Toronto.
Thank you so much, Sherry. You're unwavering champion of our work, and we're just beyond grateful for your extraordinary generosity. So thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. As many of you have already noted, it's so nice to be here in person. Although I would add the small caveat that my feet are feeling the last 2 years of no heels. So some small blisters, but it's fine to be able to see you in person. So in my position, I'm really lucky because I get to really witness the firsthand impact that your support has for our participants in our programs, and in particular in our shelters. I cannot emphasize to you enough how much every dollar counts towards the work that we do. So tonight, there are a number of ways that you can make donations to create change. On your table, you will see a card like this, if you haven't already found it. And you can scan this QR code on the donation card. Thank you, the lights just came up so you can see it a little bit easier. And enter all of your information online. But once you do that, you would get your tax receipt immediately to the email address that you've provided. If that isn't your style, no problem. You can make a donation through check, credit card, or cash just by filling out the information on the back of the card here. And as Sherry already mentioned, tonight's really important because everything you donate will be doubled, with a huge thanks to Elmwood Spa and Bangkok Garden. So please do be as generous as you can. Sometimes people want to know where their money is going, which is a really fair question. And so we thought we would give you a bit of a sample about what your gift can do tonight. So at a $1,000 donation, you can give a woman fleeing violence or experiencing homelessness access to trauma counseling, legal and immigration support, housing assistance, education and employment training, and other holistic services for 3 weeks at the YWCA Toronto Emergency Shelters. $500 can feed 62 kids at our Bergamot Early Learning Center, which you were able to see on the video, with nutritious meals and snacks for 3 days. $250 can provide a woman with 6 months of travel fare to medical, legal, employment, and other appointments. And $100 can provide 5 women arriving at a shelter with a welcome package, including essential toiletries and fresh linens. If you have chosen to enter your information online using that QR code, you don't need to put your card in the envelope because it will just show up right away. However, if you are making that donation by check, credit card, or cash, please do make sure that you enter all of the information on the card and then put your card back into the small envelope along with your check or cash in the big envelope that's on your table. And you will see, I watched them all sort of come in, this small but mighty crew of volunteers who are coming around shortly to collect those envelopes. I just want to remind you that no contribution is too large or too small, and we obviously would certainly appreciate you making the most generous donation that you can. And really, the more women and girls that we can help, even if it's just in a small way, can create that wider ripple effect who they can go on and help others. Your generous support tonight will ensure YWCA Toronto can continue to deliver our 34 high-impact, life-changing programs to some of our city's most vulnerable people. You are literally transforming lives, so please do be as generous as you can. I'm going to just hang out here for a few minutes to allow the volunteers a bit of time to come to your tables and collect those cards. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for your generosity, and I'd like to just welcome back Jill to the stage.
Thank you, Nina. And thanks to all of you who are busy trying to figure out how to work the QR code and trying to recall all 16 digits of your credit card number. Well done. Okay, now please welcome to the stage Rose Patton, who is Chancellor of University of Toronto and 2008 Woman of Distinction alumna, to introduce our next award recipient.
So thank you, Jill, and good evening to everyone. And I, too, will take just one sentence to say how joyful I feel as well. So it's an echoing of what everyone has said, because it's so wonderful to be in this sea of people, as I was thinking about it when I came in. When we hear the phrase women or woman of distinction, we actually think of the YWCA. We think of women who stand out, not only because of their greatness as individuals, but also, and very crucially, because of their record of empowering other women and diverse people, all deserving of equity and inclusion. It is, for me, an honor and a humble moment right now to be standing here this evening, joyfully presenting an award to a most worthy woman, Cheryl Regehr, while at the same time having been a recipient of this award in corporate leadership in 2008 is something for which I continue to be very humbled. Now, as Chancellor of the University of Toronto, it is my great honor to acknowledge that U of T shares these ideals and to say how proud we are to collaborate with YWCA Toronto in promoting them. In fact, the values of inclusive excellence are fundamental to the U of T's academic mission. And those very values inspire us in fulfilling our role as a key engine of progress in our broader society. Among the leaders of the university, our provost, Professor Cheryl Regehr, shines as an especially brilliant illustration of what we've heard through the evening: advocacy, illustration of leadership. In that capacity, Cheryl has created 3 new roles within the administration: one to promote women in science, technology, engineering, and math; another to increase access to academia for underrepresented students; and another to enhance student mental health services. She's also collaborated with other leaders in the university to increase the diversity of our faculty, to address sexual violence on campus, and to foster truth and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. All of this is in addition to her deep record of accomplishment as a prolific and influential scholar, as a highly regarded practitioner and administrator in the fields of social work and mental health. So let's just watch the video.
I started my career as a social worker. I also ran sexual assault care centers. After that, became a faculty member who was really interested in doing research in areas of sexual violence and resilience and intersections between law and mental health. We have to understand that learning takes place in the context of someone's life. And we have to pay attention to those life issues and see what we can do to support people in the other challenges that they faced in order that they can truly achieve their potential in education. One of the things that's been a real focus of mine is access to our programs and ensuring that all students in our local communities have the ability to come and study at University of Toronto. Then we've created new pipeline programs that bring in students from diverse backgrounds in our community. So that has been an incredible joy to see the way in which students who might never have seen themselves at University of Toronto are able to find ways to learn about the university, try out the university, and in the end become our ongoing students and graduate from the university. And meeting those students as they enter the university through our Access programs, and then standing outside of Convocation Hall with their families and meeting their families at the end of this process is just an unbelievable privilege.
It's my great delight and honor to present the YWCA Toronto Women of Distinction Award Education. Cheryl.
Thank you, Rose. It is a tremendous honor to be here tonight and hear the amazing stories of the women who have come before me. And it's particularly special to receive this award from you, Rose. For those of you who don't know, Rose is a tremendous supporter of women in executive and leadership positions, first of all in the banking industry, and now in her amazing role as the Chancellor at the University of Toronto. I am both humbled and delighted to be recognized with this award this evening by an organization that I respect so incredibly much, the YWCA. And it is an organization filled with extraordinary women, volunteers and staff who are committed to the success and well-being of other women. Who could imagine something more wonderful than that? I must say, though, I feel that this award belongs to my colleagues, the amazing women of the University of Toronto, and I am so very honored that they have graciously agreed to be here today. So these four wonderful tables of the women of the University of Toronto and the leaders. I am just immensely fortunate to work with and look up to these fantastic leaders who have been fully invested in advancing gender equity in higher education. These colleagues share my commitment to U of T, making U of T, academia in general, and society more equitable for women, gender diverse folks, as well as for students who have been traditionally underrepresented at our university. Part of what makes truly excellent education is ensuring that everyone can access it. And this is never more apparent than you heard in my video about at the time of convocation, which we're finally holding in person at the end of the pandemic. 1,700 people in a room together. And at Convocation Hall, we are surrounded by the hopes and dreams of our students and of the families and people who come from all different backgrounds, all lived experiences. And we get to experience the joy and hope that they feel. Education is an occupation of hope, and we feel that hope and we feel that joy, and we feel that they are leaving with the confidence knowing that they can take the world. And everybody should have that same opportunity and feel that same level of confidence. So while I have such an empowered, captive, wonderful audience here, I want to ask you a favor. As you all are working with women and girls who might be struggling to achieve their potential, tell them that with over 100 pathways to education, University of Toronto has a place for them. We are ready to welcome them. We are ready to help them reach their goals. We are ready to help them succeed in this world. Because I am incredibly optimistic for the future. A future for more women are going to be sitting around leadership tables, women from diverse backgrounds who will be able to share their experiences at these tables, and where girls from around the world can imagine a better future, a brighter future for themselves, their families, and their communities. Thank you so very much.
Now, please welcome our next presenter, Michelle Waite, Regional Vice President, Business and Commercial Financial Services, Greater Toronto Region, RBC.
Well, thank you, and good evening, everyone. Earlier this year, RBC celebrated International Women's Day, and the theme was, I am limitless. Limitless. As I think about that word, I am reminded of all the women who have paved the way. Business leaders, activists, athletes, and community leaders who broke ground and created lasting change. I think of the women right here tonight. Your impact and the impact of the female changemakers before you have left us with a powerful example of what is possible. A powerful example of women's limitless potential. I'm proud to be here with all of you tonight on behalf of RBC, because at RBC we believe the same thing that we're celebrating here tonight: the importance of diversity and championing the professional advancement of women. This is why we are longstanding supporters of the YWCA Toronto. I'm thrilled to join you to celebrate the many women here tonight who are using their voice and their talent to continue creating change. To all of these women, thank you. Thank you for having the courage and determination to change the norm for a better collective future. I am especially honored to be presenting the next award to this year's Young Women of Distinction. At 25 years old, Tufa Jallow has already published a book and is an accomplished educator and advocate speaking out against gender-based violence on the world stage. Tufa was forced to flee her native country of the Gambia at the age of 18 after the country's violent dictator drugged and sexually assaulted her because she rejected his proposal to become one of his wives. After the dictator was disposed, she returned to her country to testify against him, breaking several taboos by speaking publicly on the assault. her testimony inspired an outpouring of stories from West African women and sparked a social media campaign, #IamTufa, to address sexual assault and gender-based violence in the country. If you have not read her story, I really encourage you to do so. It will translate and take you to every emotion you could ever imagine, and I literally could not put this down. Tufa established and now leads the Tufa Foundation, an organization that helps women heal from sexual and gendered violence in the Gambia. Tufa now lives in Toronto and travels to the Gambia to continue her remarkable work. Let's take a look.
I came to the public eye in 2019 when I had escaped my home country because I had competed in a pageant but then raped by the ex-president. I sat on the laptop and I'm trying to search for people and faces that are associated with violence or people that have spoken out against their perpetrator in the Gambia, and I could not find one single person. It was all numbers, it was 1 out of 5 people in Gambia, 2 out of 3, UN statistics and World Health Organizations, but there were no human beings. And that crippled me, but also inspired me in a way that I cannot explain. I could not sit comfortably with the idea that there are no faces of people that have gone through violence in that country. And I think where that is coming from deeply is, if that is true, it is confirming to me what a lot of survivors of violence say to themselves, and that is, oh, it must have only happened to me. This is such a unique situation and such a unique position. And because of that, I should just keep it to myself because there's no commonality in my story or what has happened to me. And accepting those numbers means accepting that. With each person that I shared it, I felt like I was gaining a piece of me back. So one thing was certain when I decided to speak out publicly was that I don't know what's going to happen or what the consequences are going to be, but one thing for sure is that I am not going to lose myself because I've already done that. My passion comes from knowing that there is more to what we are right now. I cannot see how I will not fight for women's and women's rights and the most vulnerable.
What a powerful and inspiring video. As part of her award, Tufa will be receiving a $3,000 scholarship to help further her education and training. This scholarship is provided by the family of Julia M. Ruby, and we thank them for their generosity. It is my honor to present the 2022 Young Woman of Distinction Award to Tufa Jallow.
A lot of you must be wondering, where is the hair, right? Like, that's a lot of hair, and now we're all bald, but here we are. Thank you so much. Thank you to the YWCA for championing women's rights to live dignified lives. I have had my own share with this organization. I have had to walk into a YWCA center, ask for, what do I do with my future as a refugee? And until now, I still benefit from the YWCA. So thank you so much for all that you do, for all that you believe in, and for championing women's rights. I would also like to thank my book agent, Marilyn Biderman from Transatlantic, and the Penguin Random House in general for believing in my story and the book at large. Also, immensely honored to be recognized in the midst of all these amazing women and their immeasurable impact that they continue to make in their communities and in the lives of women and gendered people and vulnerable groups as well. If you had told me 5 years ago, at 19 years, when I decided to tuck in a wooden boat, sleep in a boss pack, running from Africa's most brutal dictator who had just violently raped me, if you told me I would find a home, a voice, a bigger voice that will echo through the walls of the UN and all around the world, I would have laughed at you, or maybe not even hear you, because I was so busy trying to trying to plan my escape in a burqa. But at the end of the day, here I am. When I do find myself in spaces like this, it is important to me to amplify the voices and reality of many women and girls around the world. Opening our private lives, which aren't so private, we've come to realize, they're not as unique as we think they are, because all of us as women and girls around the world share the same experiences of violence, or know of someone that have shared the experience of violence. I am often mesmerized and quite confused as I live my life in two halves, one in Canada and the other in the Gambia. In a reality where a couple of hours in a flight drastically shifts my rights, it drastically changes what my rights are and are not. When I reach the Gambia, my sense of safety changes. Whilst I am in Canada and I battle the rights of, when I think about where my position is, where I try to, counter race and gender and my sexuality, and also where my position is when it comes to my economic standing, when I land in Gambia, I'm thinking about how safe am I, what my rights are. I start to police my language, what I say and do not say, language that I so casually would use within these walls. What does that tell us? It tells us that there is immense difference when it comes to what women experience and how they live their lives in two separate parts of the world in just spending a few hours in a flight. I clearly see the enormous progress, of course, as I live here, but I also equally see the divide as well. Although women's experiences with violence around the world are universal, the resources, the way in which we tell the stories, the sense of progress, and their visibility are not as diverse and as universal. Even within Canada, we have seen how the intersection of race, sexuality, and economic status has left survivors silent, hopeless, and denied justice. For me and the foundation, it's about centering women, outsourcing resources, and creating healing environment so that survivors can become experts and advocates in the field of sexual and gendered violence. It's amazing to talk about the work that we do. It's great to talk about the numbers, the 1 in 5, the 1 in 10, the 3 in 4, but we are all very familiar with that now. The question is, what do we do moving forward? Are we going to be a society and a culture that tells women to come out and speak up against the most powerful people within the workspace, within our environment and our homes? But then when they do come out, it's not safe enough. We don't believe them enough. We push them to the side. Are we going to stand behind women and say Me Too and champion the movement only for a second and take great pictures because it is viral? Where are all the women that we've heard from? So today I want you to ask yourself as you're in this room, to recognize that violence is as universal as it comes. The resources and the help and the support behind it, though, is not. But also to ask yourself what happened to the moment. To ask yourself what happened to the women who come in front of the camera and speak to the world, brace themselves, be confident enough and brave enough to tell you that the person that you respect the most violated them. They go back to homes and to communities and to workspaces, to schools. What happens to them? How do they reintegrate? When you're done with the hashtags, what is the reality of women? That is the thought. And until we are ready as a society and a culture to universalize the safety of women, to center survivors as experts of their own, and to also be honest about whether the spaces we create for them to say Me Too are safe enough, or if it's just a momentary thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations, Tufa. And thank you, Michelle. Okay, I kind of want this night to keep going on, but we're getting close to the end. And before I introduce our final presenter, I want to thank all of you for being here, for your support, and for what I know will be the great voice that you will give to YWCA going forward when you leave and share, as has been encouraged to you tonight, this with your friends. So a big round of applause to everyone for making this a great night. Okay, the final award of the night will be presented, and please welcome, from Kelly Goldthorpe, YWCA Toronto's board president.
Thank you, Jill. Good evening, everyone. YWCA Toronto is fortunate to have sponsors and donors who are so loyal and committed to supporting our work. We appreciate all of you, our guests, sponsors, and friends for coming out and joining us tonight, putting on makeup, wearing high heels, wearing your nice party clothes. I'd like to take a moment to thank our champion sponsors, TD Bank Group, Elmwood Spa, and Bangkok Gardens. Thank you to our patron sponsor, RBC, Shoppers Drug Mart, University of Toronto, and Whitehorse Liquidity Partners. And to our tribute sponsors, BMO, Tricon Residential, and KPMG. Thank you for your continued support. And thank you to our future leader sponsors, KingSet Capital, Life Labs, Purpose Unlimited, PwC Canada, Sagan, and Society of United Professionals. Thank you to Seidel Asset Management, our volunteer sponsors, and to our media sponsors, CBC Toronto and the Globe and Mail. And our official jeweler, FTJCO, and our in-kind sponsor, Steam Whistle Brewing. We thank you for your generosity. Thank you to our supporters who bought tables and tickets. I know that many of you have been coming to the Women of Distinction Awards for years, and we are so grateful. And thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight in person and making donations and purchasing a silent auction item. And finally, I'd like to thank our wonderful, amazing volunteers who dedicated their time, energy, and enthusiasm to making this evening possible. But now it's my absolute pleasure to present the President's Award, our final Women of Distinction Award this evening, to a woman who's in a category of her own, Margaret Newell. Margaret has a long history of community activism and women-focused philanthropy. She's a leading voice for ending violence against women. She co-founded both Resolve, or the Research and Education for Solutions to Violence and Abuse, and the Prairie Action Foundation, and served as the foundation's chair for 10 years. Margaret has a deep commitment to causes that support Indigenous women and families, and believes that philanthropy plays a key role in advancing truth and reconciliation. Margaret and her work have been recognized throughout the prairies and nationally. She holds honorary degrees from the universities of Regina, Manitoba, and Calgary. Not only that, Margaret is a member of the Order of Canada and received the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. Margaret has this endless drive to empower those around her to learn, grow, and thrive, and she truly embodies this belief that contributing to a community is what makes you a part of it.
My husband had a favorite expression, "How did I get so lucky?" I never heard of family violence my whole life until I was a teacher. I was walking up and down the aisles, and my shadow fell across a little boy called Andy, who threw up his hand to protect his head. And I thought, Andy, I would never ever hit you. You can count on me. That, obviously, somebody did it on a regular basis because he was so well trained to protect his head. That's when it kind of made me sit up and look around. That was a wake-up call.
As an Indigenous woman, I have to tell you, I started out not terribly trusting of some of these relationships. You know, there have been a few relationships that have really blossomed and are sincere and are truly working in the spirit of reconciliation. And Margaret's one of those people.
We were
co-founders, you might say, of Prairie Action Foundation in Calgary. She was nervous about fundraising initially. Didn't think she'd be very good at it, but in fact, she was wonderful at it. I think people had a hard time turning her down.
It's very hard to get money from people for operating costs. But Margaret, while she is very soft-spoken and very humble, she is very strong and very persistent.
Here we were, a young family, 3 kids, Anglophone Protestant parents in Montreal in the 60s and the early 70s. And, you know, Mom was determined that we should be bilingual because, you know, you're in Quebec, you should be able to speak the language. She and Dad pushed water uphill and got us in.
There was no French immersion yet, and she felt it was only right that because we were living in Quebec, that her children should become very fluent in French.
I'm the youngest. By the time I showed up, the school board literally looked at her and went, never mind, just give her what she wants.
Well, Margaret, I've been honored to say some words about you, and it's pretty easy for me to do because I love you so much. And we just want to thank you and recognize and celebrate this great award. I know that's an important one, and you deserve it, Margaret. All the best, my love.
I'm really proud of you, but you know that already. Love you.
Congratulations, Margaret, on receiving this wonderful award.
Congratulations, Mom.
Dear Margaret, congratulations.
Congratulations, Mom, on receiving the President's Award.
So, Margaret, you truly are a woman of distinction, and I'm so honored to know you. Congratulations.
Grew up on a farm in Saskatchewan, and my parents were just like that they helped people. And if you're lucky enough, you better give some of that luck back.
It is my true great honor to present the 2022 Women of Distinction President's Award to Margaret Newell.
Thank you. I feel honored and very humbled to receive this award. Thank you, YWCA, and thank you, Heather McGregor, because I think you had something to do with this. Thank you. As my husband often used to say, how did I get so lucky? Growing up on a farm in Saskatchewan, I learned about the pioneer days when neighbors depended on each other for help. It became a way of life for people on the prairies. I can remember, for example, on occasion when a neighbor's car broke down outside our gate. My mom just peeled a few extra potatoes and invited the neighbors to stay for supper. Then years later, when my husband and I were moving to Calgary in the early 90s, a Calgary friend warned me, "You'd better make up your mind what you're going to volunteer for, because you're going to be volunteering whether you want to or not." That was an easy choice. As a teacher, I had seen how domestic violence affected children. So I became involved in the effort to fund prairie-wide research on family violence. Thank you, Carolyn Boivin, who spoke on the video. I didn't know that was going to happen. Thank you. I soon realized I had much to learn from the people already on the front lines of this issue, family violence. And we all have much to learn from leaders in frontline organizations. Some of them are small agencies serving clients who have to cope with poverty or racism or violence. And some of these agencies don't always have access to the sources of funding that bigger established charities like hospitals have. I'm learning that philanthropy is most useful if it helps to restore the balance. To quote Senator Ratna Omedvar, philanthropy can't go back to business as usual. It needs to be a force for justice. We need to listen and even be uncomfortable and find out what is needed from the people who know. Dr. Seuss said it well, as he often used to do that. Unless people like you care a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Aren't we lucky? Thank you.
Oh, you forgot. Yeah, you're going to need this.
Thank you.
Welcome. Hold on to it. It's a heavy one. It's heavy. Yeah. Okay. What a night. Congratulations once again to all the 2022 Women of Distinction. Please, after I say all of their names, congratulate once again Margaret, Asma, Cheryl, Deepa, Loli, Sharon, Tufa, and Willa. Yes. Come on up. Come on up. Oh, don't stand. I'm blocking your way. You guys should stand where people can see you. Here. You want to stand with them? Okay, special surprise tonight because it's a milestone birthday for somebody on this stage. Margaret has a big day tomorrow. So we're going to wish her very happy birthday, many happy returns, the good old-fashioned way. All right, with me, everybody. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Margaret. Happy birthday to you. Should you use the mic? Do you want to blow it out?
A wish for success to the YWCA and everybody else who helps women and children. Thank you.
Bravo! Wait, make that wish. Woohoo! Okay, just a couple of reminders. A big thank you to everyone for bidding in the silent auction, and congratulations to the winners. You've been notified by email that you won. So you can pay for your item and pick it up at the silent auction room when the award ceremony is over. Please don't forget to take your program books with you. Our very generous friends at the Elmwood Spa and Bangkok Garden have a special offer for everyone here tonight, and it's in your program book. So you don't want to miss being able to redeem that. It's a code for 20% off discount from their services. So thanks again to Elmwood Spa and Bangkok Garden for that. And as I mentioned earlier, don't forget to look way up in the sky tonight for a visual reminder of all that's been going on here and that continues to go on through YWCA Toronto. The CN Tower is lit up purple, magenta, and orange to honor this evening, the 41st YWCA Toronto Women of Distinction Awards Gala. At various times throughout the night, YWCA Toronto is pleased to share tonight's lighting with other important causes. So thank you again for being part of a remarkable night. On behalf of everyone in the room, we appreciate you being here, and congratulations once again to our 2022 Women of Distinction.